Hello, I think we're live now, and welcome to episode 23 of the Blob Watch. And I'm joined today with one of the most recurring guests on this channel, Joz. How are you this evening, sir?
I'm very well. It's good to be here again.
Cool. Thanks for coming on. Unfortunately, Rubber couldn't join us, but that's not to worry because we've still got plenty of content to talk about this evening. So, firstly, we're going to talk about the George Floyd case because it's sort of just started up, hasn't it? Really, the prosecution.
You say George Floyd case is the Chauvin trial.
Well, it's the Chauvin trial, but no one. The trouble is, no one knows the name. It's not like a household name. I mean, unfortunately, George Floyd is a household name. Shouldn't be, but yeah, it's technically it's the Derek Chauvin trial. The officer who, again, as just to remind people, he is the person who was kneeling or kept George Floyd in a chokehold because he was acting erratically and was high on drugs, effectively. Watch the body cam on Police Active, I think it's called. There's actually the full body cam. I think it's like 30 minutes. And
yeah, I've seen some of it. It's interesting.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is the prosecution. So these are the people who are trying to get Chauvin prosecuted. Have selectively in the trial edited the footage predominantly of the point where George Floyd is on the ground by the police car and is saying at that point, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." But what the whole clip that the 30-minute clip doesn't show is that George Floyd actually asked to be put on the ground anyway, because he was quite delirious, because he was, I guess it's safe to say he was overdosing on drugs at this point, if we're to believe the coroner is correct. And not
if your thesis is that he died of the drugs in his system, then yeah, that's an overdose.
Yeah, I mean, I have no reason to disbelieve the coroner. I'm waiting. It'd be interesting to see what the prosecution does coming up to sort of debunk the coroner's report, because I like to know what it is. I mean, I think currently the argument is that because George Floyd had taken drugs for, what was it, decades, that he built up some sort of immunity. So the dosage that they claim would kill a man might not necessarily kill him.
That seems shaky.
Well, according to
there's a lot you got to prove there.
Yeah, and now the problem is, and this is where they will have a problem. You ask any medical doctor, because I actually asked one the other day about that in particular. He said that while there is resistance, it doesn't actually resist you from overdose, because it still could trigger a heart attack. Because I mean, from what we could see, and this is what some doctors have pointed out, that they thought that when he was on the ground, it wasn't so much his airway was blocked, because we know it wasn't blocked, because he was able to shout several times on the ground that he couldn't breathe. It was more likely that it was a heart attack. In fact, because I've seen several heart attacks in my life with my job and everything. So I from my perspective, it looks like a heart attack. But that's just my opinion on the matter. I would say that he died of a heart attack. I also would say the drugs probably didn't help. The fact that he had an enlarged heart, and that also that he had recently been suffering of COVID. I mean, it seems like a really unfortunate combination. But at the same time, the question is, and this is what the defense needs to prove, is that would he have died if the police officers, say, left him in the back of the car? Would he have died if he just, the police didn't stop him and he went home?
Yes.
I mean, that's what they have to prove. And I think the coroner's report, because I believe the coroner even said that if he'd been found dead in his home due to the and he was found dead in his home, and they found that the amount of drugs in his system, they probably would have put it down to an overdose.
Yeah. Also, the fact that the guy had his knee on the back of his neck. Like, I know it's not. Obviously, it's just a video. It wouldn't hold up in a court of law or anything. But just kind of my thinking was that, like, surely if you're gonna choke somebody, you put the knee on the front of the neck, right? You crush their airway. There's no way you can crush somebody's airway with your knee on the back of the neck.
Well, the thing though is, George Floyd was they tried to put him in the back of the police van, and he started freaking out, and then they had to
I saw that.
him. Yeah, and then he said, "Put me on the floor, put me on the floor," and so Chauvin put him on the floor. But the problem was because at that point Chauvin and the other officers actually called for ambulance because they knew, because I imagine there's a drug problem in Minneapolis, like many American cities. I imagine from what the recording was suggesting, that they had a feeling that he was overdosing, that he was on drugs, because his behavior, his pupils, everything was just extremely erratic. And so Chauvin, the defense is that Chauvin put him in the recovery position, but at the same time, because of the proximity from them in the road and his behavior,
there was a whole crowd of people as well,
and a crowd of people, and also because George Floyd was quite a big chap as well.
Big Floyd.
He was quite a big chap. That they needed to put him in a recovery position, but also subdue him enough that he couldn't cause harm, like jump out in the front of the road or something in a fit of madness or drugged up rage or what have you. And so, I mean, that's from what the footage I've seen. But of course, there's a point where over 9 minutes in, he stops shouting, and it's quite interesting because it's quite sudden, his him being shouting and moving his head about. But again, this is one thing we're not told. He was able to move his head about. You saw him move his chin and head about while he was on the floor when Chauvin was on his subduing him. But I mean, the other interesting thing in this is he just went quiet, and it's at that point it looks like that he died, or he just stopped breathing. And so the question is that the prosecution needs to prove, and there's a couple people rightly pointed out in the chat here, they need to prove that his death was caused of asphyxiation. The lack of breathing. I'm sorry, I can't speak today. He died from asphyxiation of the airways, and not a heart attack, which is what the thesis is at the moment, given the state of his heart, his lungs, and also the amount of drugs that he had just taken. And also, he literally, when they arrested him, he swallowed a tablet as well.
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, because like the footage, the police sort of referenced, or the defense sort of referenced, that he had something in his mouth, because you see in the body cam, there's like, I mean, it could be a mint. We don't know.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
it could be a mint for all we know. But he when the officer opened up the door and he looked at him, he was like swallowed something really quickly. So it could be, it might not be. I don't know. But yeah, so that's where we are at the moment. But unfortunately, that's not good enough for the mainstream media, especially the likes of BBC and Sky News, who have sainted St. George Floyd. And so what we have here is they're sort of covering the witnesses at this point. So you got the shop clerk who told the court that because the reason why George Floyd was pulled over was over a dodgy.
Yeah, it was counterfeit money, wasn't it?
It was counterfeit money. Yes. Yeah, this is it. Yeah, it was over counterfeit money, $20, and the chap who gave him the who reported it says now that he regrets it, regrets doing it, and I don't know why he was called as a witness, because he didn't actually. I mean, I can understand him being called as a witness for. I don't know why he was called as a witness, really. Because
well, I mean, let's be honest. This probably doesn't have very much to do with due process, does it?
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem with it. It's not very much to do with due process. But even, I mean, like the BBC, the framing of this, it's they sort of changed it. But the original, like yesterday's framing of it was George Floyd was killed. Killed by Officer Derek Chauvin, which is already a predetermined outcome. And I think there is going to be a predetermined outcome to this, because I do think I originally thought that he was going. I mean, there's still a part of me that would say that in a neutral setting with people who weren't indoctrinated either side, who were just looking at the facts of the case, Derek Chauvin would be found not guilty, because that is all scientific and forensic evidence points towards that conclusion. But what happens if he isn't found not guilty? Rioting Mark II starts.
Yeah, it's not the best. It's pretty horrendous. I mean, we're what was it they were saying in the Supreme Court? Like, oh, we don't have riots this time.
Yeah. And there's also, I mean, this is something that I found really, really bizarre. And I would say, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, guys in chat, but do you think there's an element of like subtle threats being chucked towards the jurors at all? Because the amount of media attention, especially in America.
Yeah, so isn't this a bit like the O.J. Simpson trial, where they have to find jurors who don't really know anything about it, which is really hard?
Well, yeah, because it's near impossible. Because I mean, even back then, like you're talking about the '90s, so this is like before social media. Before,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but O.J. Simpson was, a celebrity, so everyone, like in the black community, white community, all Americans knew who he was. That they did pick people that, I mean, ideally they actually tried to pick people who knew nothing about football, which is one of the ways that they got round it. The criticisms that I've seen of the jurors so far is, number one, there's been a lot of them who've been outside of Minneapolis, because, and this is what Stephen Crowder pointed out on one of his streams. The jurors that they selected who were from within the city, many of them had property, i.e. cars, businesses, homes, which had been damaged during the Black Lives Matter riots, and the prosecutors didn't want them, because they believed that there would be a predetermined view when it comes to this trial. And they turned out the problem was a lot of the jurors that had been brought forward had been affected by it, but been affected one way or another. And so they had to go out further, which means they have to get, because I mean, you're looking at Minnesota, so they had to go to the counties outside of Minneapolis, but they tend to be red Republican conservative counties.
Yeah, I mean, part of me is like, well, if they've had their property damaged by the rioting, then maybe they'll be more likely to be scared by it. You could argue both ways, right?
You could argue both ways. I mean, I don't know, because it depends what the public mood. I mean, trouble is we only. I mean, if there's any Americans watching who understands, like knows what went on in Minneapolis and knows public sentiment there on the ground, because we only go off what our mainstream media tells us
course,
of America.
yeah.
We don't have America apart from like guys on Twitter. We don't know what goes on in America. We're only sort of gaslit. You know, this sort of stuff we got on screen here, the sort of Black Lives Matter, I can't breathe protest. This is being shown around the UK, making it look like that this is the majority of Americans, what the majority of Americans agree with.
It's so like just the headline there is so kind of threatening, you know, like who will or they decide the officer's fate, you know, it's just
yeah.
And obviously it's all, as you can see in the picture there, it's all framed in terms of the rioting, not did this man commit the crime.
Yeah, I mean, this is because, like, I mean, Sky News did a really interesting thing this morning when I went downstairs, I had my breakfast, I turned on the news and they were covering this story, and they were talking to people outside who there's like a daily protest outside the courtroom,
Right?
And yeah, that which is obviously very normal, and it seems, I mean. I mean, I have to say, this is getting very French Reign of Terror, where society and laws and politics is decided by this unwielding mob.
Pretty much, that's what it seems.
And I mean, and this goes back to my point that I made when I was on a guest stream on AM's channel when I was talking about why I think the American Revolution was a mistake.
America is the problem.
Well, I do think that this is the problem with the Enlightenment and the sort of French viewpoint of the Enlightenment, which is, or the Continental, which sort of derives from the French one, which has sort of infected America.
Yeah.
Because
I was trying to make this point to an American the other day that it, in some ways, America has taken actually on a lot of Frenchness in its worldview, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting thing that you hear from a lot of the Americans is that they refer to themselves or to people like us, for example, as Europeans.
Yes.
And Americans need to understand, especially on our side, because there's some of them, like on the Republican side, will refer to us as Europeans, probably not realizing, because while it might be a useful way of describing yourselves in America, like between white Americans and Black Americans and Hispanics and what have you, Native Americans.
No one cares here.
Well, no one. I don't think anyone cares. I think if you went to Europe, I think there's been opinion polls done. Like even in the most Europhile countries like Cyprus and Germany and such,
Brussels
there's still a strong nationalistic sentiment of they would rather be known as Cypriots or Germans. If you went there and said, "Oh, yes, Europeans," they would either think of European Union, so they'd be thinking you're talking in the political context, or that you're talking generally, because again there is this deep cultural thing where a Portuguese and a Pole are completely different, even though you might have, say, similarities on religious beliefs or what have you. Culturally, they're about as different as a Canadian and a Mexican, for example.
Yeah, that's normally where I go. It's like, okay, America, while there are differences between the different states, it's like they are not separate countries. They still have a shared sort of mythos.
Yeah, I mean, I think Americans, I mean, I think this is where America is and this is what if I was the Republican Party, this is sort of position that I'd be looking at. I'd be saying that we need to accept that we're an English-speaking country, and that our foundation, as you said, our mythos, is that we are an English-speaking society.
Have you seen the American Loyalist Party? Was it you who was looking at that? I remember watching a stream where they were looking at the American Loyalist Party, and it was amazing.
I think it was what's he, Chicago Liberal?
Perhaps, yes.
Yeah, Chicago Liberal and Cringe Walker. They're both sort of American loyalists. I
think we were trying to persuade Cringe Walker to join it, I think.
Yeah, but he's an accelerationist though, so I mean he would hence why
even he was quite seemed quite taken by them. They had some quite fiery rhetoric, which I liked.
Yeah.
So if Americans look at the American Loyalists, I think it's the American Loyalist Party. Yeah,
I mean,
they were quite forthright in their beliefs.
yeah. I mean, I think there is a genuine connection that I mean, first of all, I don't think you really need like I mean, while I like the loyalists and love the idea of like reintegrating America, but to be honest, I don't think I want
No.
to reintegrate America back into the empire.
Like, I'll meme it, but I don't want them in the Commonwealth or anywhere near us because
exactly as a joke I'd meme it, but I think though on all seriousness here, I do think that America needs to clearly define itself as not as a European nation. I mean, yes, Europeans outside of England did emigrate to America through the ages. That's not what we're saying here. But what we're saying is the foundation of America is built upon English society. It wasn't, America wasn't born from the society born from the Franks, the French, the Central European feudal systems. The absolute monarchy.
I will say that they do have as I said before, they have a bit of French in their sort of worldview, in that they have this revolutionary spirit still, which is utterly like non-English.
Yeah, I mean, I think
they still talk about. I mean, even I remember like when I was first learning about sort of even like what communism was when I was quite a lot younger, hearing the rhetoric about the people this, the people that, which is the same rhetoric America uses all the time. I was struggling to see the difference between how they speak and how Americans speak. You know,
I mean, I do think with the American Revolution there is an element of unfinished business with the English Civil War, because there was a faction, obviously within the Puritan cause, who were devout Republicans in the sense that their belief was the relationship between themselves and God. That there was really no place for a king or a king to be the arbiter of the head of a church, let's say. And so you go along that line and you think, so if you actually look at the battlegrounds, like where did the American Revolution take place? It was all in like northeastern colonies. What's now New England.
It's quite funny. I was chatting to an American IRL friend the other day, and she was saying like, I can't remember why we ended up talking about the Boston Charter. From Boston, and the fact that initially they were basically Massachusetts was given, or the Massachusetts Charter were given all of the land from where Boston is. Basically, technically, it could have gone all the way west in a big sort of strike. In the same way that South America, a bit was given to Portugal and the rest to Spain.
Yeah.
And she was saying, "Oh yeah, all of it should be ruled from Boston." And I'm like, "Oh, you're a bit of a Massachusetts imperialist then." And she was like, "Oh well, that's a reputation that people from Massachusetts have." And I was just like, "Really? Is that a thing?" Because Massachusetts is like the home of all the extreme Puritan sects, right? They've got Salem there.
Yeah.
I found it so interesting how it all sort of ties together into that one area of America.
I mean, but this is the thing. Like, if you look at the because the American Revolution was, if you look at it like in 3 stages, so you have the early like the Sons of Liberty, so the early protest movements and the early rioting in the 13 colonies, and then the actual armed revolt. The revolt itself was, as you were saying, within the Massachusetts colony. But the thing that was the rebels, let's say the Massachusetts rebels or the militiamen, whatever you want to call them, they were predominantly farmers in and around the area of Concord, Lexington, because of course that's where the battle took place. But the thing though is, during the American Revolutionary Wars, in some ways, New York, the city, like New York City and Boston, had a quite a sizable British population.
They were massive trading hubs, so yeah, they would.
Yeah, and New Jersey was from there's one statistic I saw in I referenced in the stream that we were debating that New Jersey had a majority. It was predicted I think a majority pro British, pro loyalist populace, because so many Tory militias formed in that region, and it played havoc with Washington's army and his ability to advance, because you had just so many Tory militias in the countryside, and also Tory militias who were operating as privateers, who were attacking French and pro patriot ships as well.
Equally based privateering.
Yeah, yes,
love a bit of privateering, me.
Oh, there's such a good series. It's called Turn Washington Spies, and you just see all like these Tory, like there's this Tory.
Oh, yeah, I saw a clip from that where it's like I think an Englishman has been captured, and he's in some farmhouse, and I think he's like taking the piss out of the farmer's wife while she's serving him dinner because he's like an officer or something.
Yeah,
and then the husband runs in, being like, "Oh, there's armed men coming from whichever direction. Oh, it looks like Tory militia," and this guy just starts humming the Grenadiers March under his breath while looking at them all threateningly.
Yeah, and I mean, it's such a good series, and also it was made in like 2014 ish, and it was during that time period where.
Is it on Netflix or something?
It used to be on Amazon Prime. I don't know if it's on there still.
Let me have a look. I have to give Amazon some free advertising.
Yeah.
Was it Washington Spies?
I think it's called Turn Washington Spies, and I think there's like 4 seasons or something in it. Is it?
Oh wow! Yeah.
People in chat, go watch it, because what makes it really good is it actually is one of the last. It's actually historically accurate in the sense it doesn't put 21st century values on what's going on. Like there's even like the protagonists in the, I guess you could say, quote unquote, the good guys, or the people that you're meant to root for in this, own slaves. And you actually see the relationship between the slaves and the master, and you actually see it in a way that is described by slaves who were freed at the end of the Civil War, and they had interviews like in the early 1900s, and you can go on like any YouTube video, you type in like ex-slave talking about what life was like.
Oh,
and
yeah, I've seen those.
There was like a deep family sort of connection with these people, and there was actually some sort of bond that came on. It wasn't like I guess you could say like a sort of the more like aggressive form of slavery, like working in a mine, or working in like I guess like I mean the worst type of slavery that I can think of was actually the Portuguese in Brazil. I mean, if you see some of the slave plantations there and what they had, they're like proper torture machines just like out in the open. It was really brutal. I will say Portuguese slavery was absolutely fucking crazy. And they have like 4 million they just took from they bought from Africa and shipped over to Brazil to work on the plantations there. But yeah, so going back to Chauvin here. That's quite a tangent. But I do think that there is I do think Laura, I mean, I know that some reactionaries will say to me, AI Shiatori, this has been going on for decades, but you have to admit that with the help of social media and also the radicalization of the left over the last several decades now, it's got to the point where we know that if the jurors, I mean, the jurors must be frightened for their lives, because if they're thinking, oh shit, Derek didn't kill him, he's not guilty of murder. But the problem is, but at the same time, if I say that he's not guilty, I don't want, because how many deaths, if there's going to be rioting because he's found not guilty, how many deaths do you think will happen because of the rioting this round?
I mean, if we're going to go on last summer, I mean, it's the worst time. It's coming up to summer again, you know? Last summer there were, 15, 20 people died as a result?
Yeah.
So same again, I'd hope, at least. Well, at most, I'd hope. I'd like to be wrong about that, though.
I mean, the only thing that I can say is if you're a Republican or if you're an American, let's not say Republican, if you're an American who is a patriot, who is not part of this crazy mob, and you just look after yourself and arm yourself, I guess. I mean, avoid urban centers, but at the same time, very important. Don't let mob. I mean, don't let the mob surround you in cars. I mean, the amount of times people are being dragged out of cars and beaten to half death by a mob.
Yeah, I mean, there was one the other day, wasn't there, where the guy was accused of trying to run someone over when he was quite obviously just trying to get out of the way or out of.
Oh, these retards jump out in front of every car opportunity that they can get. And so, yeah, I mean, just I think a lot of Americans need to prepare for what's coming.
I think I saw it's only tangentially related, but the same sentiment. There was a meme of a sort of badly drawn college student or whatever, and it's why yes, I do believe that the world is going to end in 12 years and we'll be suffering societal collapse. That's why I'm living in a city and I am creating no survival. I'm curating no survival skills.
Yeah,
it's like all the people who actually have a chance of like making something of themselves if society collapses to this extent aren't anywhere near where it's going to be happening because they're already prepared.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like I'd go full Far Cry 5 and just go to Montana and then start myself a religious sect and just build a compound. And
I love the song they have, "Keep Your Rifle by Your Side." Such a banger.
Oh, hang on a sec. Let's see if I still got it.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
Heavy vibes.
Yeah. I don't want to play too much. I don't want Ubisoft to come down on a hammer on top of me. Keep your rifle by your side. This is so funny because if you go like, when was Far Cry 5? When did that come out? That came out in 2015, I think.
Something like that.
2016. So this was before it all. But the thing is, like, the lyrics to it, man. I mean,
but it's meant to be such a parody. But
what is it though? Because I'm genuinely thinking, is there somebody like uber based at Ubisoft who was working on like Far Cry 5?
They're French Canadians. Like, I doubt it.
Are they all French? Because I thought there was some of them that are American.
Or maybe am I thinking of Assassin's Creed?
Yeah, I think that's Montreal, Ubisoft Montreal, like the French Canadians ones. But as soon as I don't, because the lyrics is so well thought, it just can't be a parody.
I think, well, it's supposed to be a parody, but yeah, like everyone's like, yeah, I unironically believe this.
Yeah, I remember like it became like a proper meme during the riots, and then you had like people like on like the bread tubers that were saying, "No, this is not meant to be an endorsement of," and it was like people just going, "Keep my rifle by my side."
Yeah, it's just the sort of Chad Yes face.
Yeah,
with an AR-15 over his shoulder.
Yeah, bump stop. But the thing is, people don't realize, but in Far Cry 5, the Wokarati, I mean, back in the day, the Wokarati, lambasted the game because they actually took the piss out of social justice warriors. There was one like quest giver who had like a small dialogue where he goes like, "Damn Obama, damn those commies, and damn these cultists," or something like that. And he was like just sitting there with his AR-15 in his junkyard, shooting people while they're driving.
Yeah, because aren't the protagonists like two sort of annoying city girls, or is that? Or am I thinking of a different one?
That is Far Cry New Dawn.
Is
I
it?
think
Okay.
that's the post-apocalyptic one. That's the one. I think that's been retconned actually by the looks of it. They've sort of like done away with it. There's not like a because like the new Far Cry, which is like set in Cuba or something, or some like version of Cuba. They've sort of
Right.
distanced themselves, but yeah, it the I think the antagonist, it was like a family called the Seeds, and they were you had Faith, Seed, you had Jacob, and I think John was like the head honcho. But the thing though is though, in a funny sort of way, they some of the dialogue that people have used and the songs, because a lot of these songs that you see on here is from like the cultists like own radio shows in game.
Yes.
And so what people are saying is actually, oh no, the cult, what's it called, Eden's Gate or something like that. That's what they call themselves. They actually were right about the end of the world and the end of society. But the thing though is, they are accelerationists to the point as they just want to destroy America. So yeah. And then you got like the Montana sort of Republicans who are like, we'll destroy the cultists and destroy Obama. So
it's like, directly reference Obama.
Yeah, because Obama was still the president at that point.
Just.
Well, you just had the start of MAGA, you see, and so people are like saying, "Oh, all these people in Montana are MAGA," and they say, "Well, they probably would be. To be honest, they probably would." And they were obviously MAGA because Montana votes quite heavily Republican. But yeah. So anyway, this is the trial breakdown. So this is very important for Americans. Don't know why. You have 9 women and 6 men.
Oh my god, who the fuck cares?
Why? Because I thought men, if it has to be representative society, shouldn't it be what? It should be like 8 women and 7 men.
Who knows? I don't think it's that. It's 49-51, isn't it? So it's not that. Like you'd have to have more people total for it to make a difference.
Yeah,
you need 100 people in.
Well, yeah,
for it to be sort of statistically significant.
Yeah. So you got 15 jurors in total. So the breakdown of it is you got 6 white women, 3 black men.
Oh god, right, 6 white women would have fucked.
You see, I have a prediction. I reckon the 6 white women will be the ones that will be like, no, this one's an evil Nazi copper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I bet the 3 black men will be like, yeah, I don't think he's guilty. You got 2 multiracial women.
What does that even mean?
I don't even know what that means. Is that like mixed race, Hispanic, Native? I don't know what it means. Asian. 3 white men and 1 black woman. I'm surprised they haven't got more black women, actually, come to think of it.
Probably racist.
Yeah. 10 are under the age of 50. The youngest is in their 20s. 5 are in their 50s or older. Oldest is in their 60s. I mean, that sounds about right because with jury service, they usually go for like a lot of the retired people because they're the ones that have most time on their hands. Because people who are in their 20s and 30s and 40s are usually and I'm sort of in their 50s as well, but they're usually working, and so
it makes sense to go for old people there.
And also, older people are wiser. I mean, I don't care.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I mean, I don't care what Blendness say. You can't find. I mean, Greta Thunberg and children aren't wise. Children are retarded. I see them go to school every day. They are stupid as fuck, and I wouldn't even give them the vote if I was, if I had a chance. And Rory Herbert has just come in. Hello there, sir. 12 Angry Men. I do what. It'd be interesting to see if there is a scenario of 12 Angry Men where there's 14 are like, no, he's guilty, and there's like one person who is saying, well, actually, let's just look at it and try and convince each and every one of them. But I don't know. I don't know what the system is. If they do all 15 have to come to the same conclusion, or is it like majority? I don't know how it works. Or 2/3 majority. I don't know. So that'd be interesting to see. It'd be interesting to see one. I'm not sure about the white women though. I don't trust white women. It's white American in the American context. I don't trust them. I've seen too many Karen compilations, so I'm like, no. God, no.
Karen meltdown.
Karen meltdown. Oh, God. I'm sorry, but America, especially over Meghan Markle, they were the most insufferable people on the planet.
Oh yeah, they're literally fucking going for regime change in my country because of Meghan bloody Markle.
Yeah, stop trying to put me in the same camp as the Taliban, where we're all saying death to America.
Like, Inshallah, death to America, burns flag.
I'm not joking. Like literally, when it all started, and you had like midwit American Karens talking about the history of the royal family, I was just sort of like unironically in like Iranian Twitter, just saying, well, because I went to like Arab and Iranian Twitter, and I just went, okay, guys, I'm on the death to America train now, guys.
Like, be right back, getting my pilot's license.
God. For Queen and Country, suddenly died.
You're not shouting Allahu Akbar. It's God save the Queen.
God save the Queen. Oh no, I shouldn't joke about that. If I ever want to fly to America. Yeah. So yeah, this is the breakdown of the jury. And here we go. This answers my question. So
I thought these people were supposed to like why does it matter that there's different demographics on the jury if they're supposed to be equal?
Well, it's meant to represent Hennepin County, which is quite interesting because long viewers of this channel will remember that back in the pre-election day and post-election day, I talked a lot about Hennepin County. I talked about a lot of Hennepin County indeed, because Hennepin County is one of the counties in America that fortified the election to such an extent that it actually defied mathematical logic.
Okay.
I can't say anything more because last time I did my stream got deleted the next day, but go back and watch some of the older election stuff to understand why I'm talking about Hennepin County. But basically, it is a county where the demographic figure is very sus, because I don't think I think there's a lot of people who claim to live there who may not live there, and I think the numbers are a bit iffy.
Okay.
A lot of that is down to, I mean, I'm certain Minnesota is a red state if it wasn't for fortified elections. Just saying.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I didn't pay that much attention to the American stuff because I'm just like, I know it probably does have a ripple effect across the world, but like on principle, I refuse to care, you know?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I'm English, damn it. This isn't my election. Why should I care?
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, Hennepin County is also home to a large immigrant population. I think it's Ilhan Omar's district.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I can say it's because it was proven that there was ballot harvesting going on there. Guess which party the ballot harvesting favoured, everyone?
Republicans, I reckon.
Yeah, you got Oh God, I wish.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously it was Republicans that benefited.
Yeah, those Republicans, they're well known for cheating all the time.
Yeah, maybe they should. I mean, okay, came out wrong. Maybe Republicans should learn the art of lying to get into office. Just do what Biden did. Just lie. Just come across. I mean, this is what I mean. Do what Blair did. Just lie to get into the office. Just go. Yeah, I'm full for liberal democracy in office. Boom, right wing agenda. You want your LGBT studies? Fuck off to the ocean with you. So yeah, what we have here is interesting take from the from argues Jason Nicholas, a progressive political and social analyst who teaches African American studies at the University of Maryland. So very important curriculum, obviously. He says jurors will find the visuals of Mr. Floyd's death deeply affecting. Once you turn the video on, it's hard to watch. Well, I guess if you're diabetic and vastly overweight, it probably is quite difficult to watch. I'd find it disturbing. If I was thinking, oh God, that could happen to me, need to pull myself together. But then I don't take drugs, so I like to think I'm in the clear. I wouldn't be in that position.
You know, also you struck me as a large addict to various substances.
Sorry?
You struck me as a bit of a drug addict, not gonna lie.
Well, only on the weekends.
No comments.
No comments. It depends if I have to listen to some Welsh posting. If I'm on the screen with some Welsh posting, I have to have something to carry me through, you know. And hello Gammon, hello Gently Benevolent and Uncle Sam and Mr. Silver and Vanishing Point to the chat. How are you all this evening? Come on now, Trump is not 100% truthful, is he? No, Trump he was truthful. That was the problem. Like oh God, I remember Trump when he first got into office. He was asked about his trip to Saudi Arabia, and he said, "Oh yeah, we're here for the oil," or something like that in a press conference. And it's like, oh my God. Yeah, we're in the Middle East because of oil. He even said that while we're defeating ISIS, so we can grab all the oil. And it's like the problem with Trump is he was too truthful. He said everything what was going through his mind. He just said it out loud. And I imagine there was a lot of the Republican Party that were like whacking their head against the wall every time he said something like that.
He wasn't tactically lying then.
No, I think that's why he lost, to be honest, because I think he was quite naive politically wise.
Yeah.
He should have read The Prince by Machiavelli, which I've been reading, guys, and I will do a podcast on this possibly next week or the week after.
Nice. Yeah, it's an interesting book, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very interesting book. I'm actually doing I might split it into do part 1 to 2, so like chapter 1 to 10, 10 to 20, what have you, and go on from there. But no, it's a really good book, and it's very relevant. I think Biden could definitely use it. You know, how to rule over a principality. It could be how to rule over a nation, because I don't think Biden or Boris really is.
I think, to be honest, it would be better for Boris to read it. I don't think Biden's cognitively capable of ruling anything.
Well, no, he's not. No. Well, we all know it's Kamala Harris.
Well, yeah, I think Boris. It would be better for us if Boris were to read it.
Yeah, but I think Boris needs to. He needs to sort of read it. I think also Boris needs to stop reading the fucking Guardian as well. They won't vote for you, Boris. Just stop it. They're never going to vote for you. They think you're Hitler. Embrace it. Well, don't embrace the Hitler bit, obviously, but
they think you're Hitler. Embrace it. AI Shaitori 2021. Jesus.
Yeah, embrace it.
Jesus.
Yeah, just embrace the principal position that you have. But the problem is while there are elements of him which I think are redeemable, he is I mean, at heart, he's always like a liberal conservative. I'm sick and tired of all these, especially like Sky News that say, "Oh, he was libertarian." I was like, he's never been a libertarian. He's had some libertarian talking points in the past, but he's never
compared to like bloody John McDonnell.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, when I think of libertarians, I just think of Ron Paul, like American politicians. So my view on libertarianism is,
you're not looking in the right places with politicians. I mean, funnily enough, when people rag on libertarians, it annoys me because I know there are like decent ones out there that actually have relevant things to say, but they're just nowhere near.
Is it Hop?
Yeah, Hopper is one that I probably have. Well, I haven't read much of like Mises and that, but again, they just end up going on about economics, and they're
economic, but yeah, I mean,
I say Hopper's probably the one who ties it together with the social stuff the best.
Yeah, I mean, his thing is that he's definitely interesting. I mean, the problem with libertarianism, I just don't think it's I mean, for like what we've seen of the American Libertarian Party, I mean, that was set up by.
They're not like I'm going to meme it here, but they're not real libertarians. Like,
yeah, I know that's real, but I think it was set up genuinely by real libertarians.
Yeah, so at the moment there's a group of them called the Mises Caucus who are attempting to try and take over from the inside, who are what I would call actual libertarians. They're trying to sort of, I think of an analogy. The momentum analogy is not really good enough because they're not mental.
Well, I think the problem is, I think it. Now, I mean, subversively, I would say the Mises could try. There's two tactics, and this is something that I've always said with the American political system. The Republican Party and the Democrats potentially are quite weak at the top. Because, of course, within the two parties, there are elements of factional differences. So, and so this is a controversial opinion one. Not everybody in the Democrat Party is progressive. Surprise, surprise. Not every one of them is progressive. There are people who might give into progressive talking points, but when you actually see them in interviews, they're not like AOCs. And we've actually seen like Democrats clash with AOC and the Squad people.
I mean, even Obama did.
Yeah, Obama did. There's like a senator from West Virginia who's like in the Biden administration, who like the Guardian call him a conservative Democrat, and from what I can see, he's like moderate.
He's just not a raging communist.
Well, he's not a raging communist, but he's not conservative, I don't think. I mean, he has some milquetoast, like, I mean, I would say like milquetoast sort of Boris Johnson levels of liberal.
So what the Mises Caucus were advocating for was for basically finding young libertarians who agree with them and basically getting them all to move to the same county somewhere, basically make themselves a sort of strong, the same county, the same state, make themselves a kind of stronghold and then go from there.
I mean, they would do better to do with. I mean,
I believe they found I can't remember whether it was the whole state or just a county where they basically, due to the system, they could, if they got like a few tens of thousands of voters to move there, then they would be able to basically take over the whole thing, push through all the policies they needed.
State-wise, that's quite ambitious. We'll move on from this topic in a sec, because I think we've talked about George Floyd.
I always just feel the need to defend libertarians, really, because the ones that people know about are the like bro weed, and they do have relevant things to say, but it's just the ones that it's kind of like the crazy leftists, really. It's like sometimes.
I think there's also in American politics there's an element of Green Party types in the Libertarian Party.
Well, they're the ones that hear like, "Hey, we can have weed," you know.
Yeah, like the Lobitarians. Yeah, that's what they call themselves.
There's definitely a distinct difference, and the ones that are more like just sort of, I mean, like Radlib, say, if we're aware of radical liberation.
Yeah.
Like, he's obviously a very traditional guy, sort of paleo-libertarian, I guess.
Yeah.
But he also has some very radical, like, ideas regarding liberty and that. And then it's nothing to do with legalizing weed or, you know, arguing over parking tickets and seatbelts and stuff.
Yes. I mean, when it comes to the libertarian tactic, I think statewide that's quite an ambitious target. I would say county.
It probably was a county. I can't remember exactly where it was.
I mean, because what you would do is you could run run a county, get a county, run congressman, county, like a local mayor of a town, prosecutor.
Yeah. So obviously, this is all in line with their thinking, because it's something that people like Mises and Hopper and Rothbard kind of talk about, is voting with your feet. Is that you know, if you don't like somewhere, then leave it.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, I would, as an advice to them, as a fellow traveller in politics, my advice to them would be find a Republican county, because if you choose a blue county, or if you choose a county which has a history of election shenanigans, no matter how many people you get to vote for you, the establishment party will always come out on top, because they will have the magical numbers to get that their way. So they need to pick a county carefully, because if they went into like Atlanta or something, I mean, then no matter how many votes you get.
I remember talking about it with economic erudites a long time ago, and it was somewhere in the northeast, I want to say. I mean, anyone listening, feel free to go and look it up. But yeah, it's just, the idea was to make themselves a stronghold, and then once they've got hold of that stronghold, they can locally push through anything they want.
Yeah.
Because America is so sort of decentralized in a lot of ways. They could basically remake this area in their image. It's quite kind of hardcore, to be honest. They're not. It's like it's kind of I am the Senate kind of rhetoric. You know, they're reforming this area in their image. They're not really fucking about there.
No.
They're quite hardcore, which I like.
But that's what happened with, I guess you could say, because with the change, the cultural change in the Republican and Democrat Party, because there was like they call it like the Great Switch, where all the narrative is all the racists moved from the Democrats to the Republican Party,
yes.
And then all the like nice, friendly, kind people moved from the Republican Party to the Democrat Party. And unfortunately, that is not the case. Every single Jim Crow KKK Democrat remained in the Democrat Party until they died, like in the 90s and early 2000s. Like only one, who was a pro-segregationist Democrat, switched to Republican Party, and he only did that because I think economically he was quite libertarian.
Right.
So that was he only did like for economic reasons. I mean, I don't think he even won election, like where he was standing, because there was, the Republican Party then were like, well, you're a segregationist, so we're not interested, basically. But there was a lot of movement, because you had a lot of African Americans that moved from the south to the north, and then you had greater integration. Because this is a really crazy thing. Like, isn't it amazing that all like the racist places, all the places with great like racial problems, is always in deep blue Democrat states, and the supposed old like southern racist states actually are quite well integrated.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is well integrated since the Republicans became like the majority in local state politics. I don't know. Just a thought.
Big.
So, moving on to the next topic at hand. anti-police rhetoric. So I did I mean, this sort of relates to the Chauvin and the, let's be honest, the next riots that are going to break out when he's found either guilty or innocent, because it's going to happen either way. We all know that. There's been a series of anti-police rhetoric that sort of sprung up in this country. A lot of it's come from Sarah Everard and the vigil and the police response to the vigil, and the subsequent investigation that was done, where Met Police have said that our officers did nothing wrong, and basically these crazy feminist women were attacking us, and one female officer said that she. Member of the crowd shouted at her that they hope that she gets raped and murdered.
Jesus.
I know Pal in the chat there says cops deserve it, take the knee, spoil the child. I mean, if those individual officers who were at the Sarah Everard's vigil took the knee, then yes, who were there. But if you're an officer in the Met Police and you didn't take the knee and you weren't like, because how many officers actually took the knee at that Black Lives Matter? I think there was like 5 or 6. Like, if those ones who took the knee were actually there at the vigil, then yes, I would probably agree. You probably you had it coming to you. If they don't stand against it, then they stand for it. Yeah. It depends, because I know that there were complaints at the time at the Police Federation with officers' conduct. So yeah, I guess what this. I mean, about the same time, like we'll talk about the Met Police. I'm going to go to Avon Somerset. I don't know a single Avon Somerset police officer who took the knee. And the only one actually I do know that did take a knee was when they were arresting a black chap in Aldi car park. They actually put a knee on his neck. So yeah, he took the knee then.
Oh no!
and then some white Karen came up behind him and says, "Oh my God, you got the knee on his neck!" And he just shouted, "Get back, or I'll arrest you too." So yeah, so Avon and Somerset have taken a knee before, but not in the way that you think.
I don't know. I'm not a fan of the UK police, like, in general at the moment.
No, I mean, there's been like the whole things with lockdowns, and then
my general feeling was I don't really have a dog in this fight. Like, I don't like the police, but I also don't like the protesters. So watching them getting twatted with batons was quite funny.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm going to actually run some defence of Avon and Somerset Police, because number one, they haven't been enforcing like they haven't been like. Like the ridiculous lockdown stories of like drones, telling walkers to.
Oh, that was Cumbria. Was that Cumbria?
Yeah, Cumbria. Yeah, places like that. None of that's happened down here. The police haven't been that overzealous down here when it comes to the whole COVID situation. And to be fair, I mean, as Gammon just said, even I down here, I was surprised at the response when the violence started, and then the violence next day, like. How the police weren't, because I thought they would be like standing around, they would retreat into the police station and they would sort of allow the rioters to run rampant around Bristol city centre, and no, not really. They weren't allowed to.
Did they have a police like a police horse charge, or was I?
Yeah,
did I imagine that
they did. And actually, what made it quite interesting is they actually had, because most police horse chargers, like, or most police horses, when they're deployed, they don't usually give them, because they usually have like these long white sticks, long white batons. They don't usually give them out because it's quite dangerous, quite deadly if they have to use them against rioters or protesters. But in this instance, they actually did give them out.
Wow.
And they did use them against a lot
of Riders of Rohan music.
I've been trying to find I've actually been trying to find some footage, but there's one. There is only.
I was trying to find some footage as well, because I heard reports that was happening, but I hadn't confirmed anything.
It's all there is. Let me have a look. Bristol protest video. Let me see if I can find, because I might do like an edit of Riders of Rohan.
Yeah, please, if you find it, please do it, because that'd be amazing.
I tell you, oh, you got this one. This is my favorite one.
Oh, wow. Was that a kick?
No, she got battened around the head.
Okay.
Oh
my god. I mean, that's quite brutal.
I'm not going to lie, that might have been a bit excessive.
Yeah, like she just fucking like she's not. You see some ones where they're obviously faking it. You know, they're obviously like they go curl up on the floor and cry or something. But that was quite obviously like she wasn't moving of her own free will there.
There's one chap on the ground that they end up sort of like kicking, I think, apparently.
Jesus.
I mean, a lot of it is just a bunch of like cringe protester stuff. Yeah, this is the police horse. Like, I've actually been to their stables. It's really nice there. Not gonna lie.
I bet it is. Yeah, I guess it's not the last kind of bastion of the warhorse. You know, like, do they have warhorse stables anywhere else?
I have to say, even in Somerset, like if you actually go to a lot of their like police events that they have, like they actually are quite wholesome people, because they do police like the hunting down here, so we get to know them quite often. I mean, they're really like wholesome. Especially the trouble is, a lot of these officers they're not like city Bristol city officers. They come from where I'm from, down in the rural bits.
Right. So they relish a chance to batter some city bastards.
Yeah, well, I mean, like these ones here, they are city ones. But then if you go down here, let me find the ones that are now. These ones are Taunton. These are the ones that are Taunton.
Okay, right. Oh, he's battering them with a fucking shield.
Yes. These are the ones from the rural shire bits who just don't give a fuck. And it's how it is. I'm trying to find the rider protest. I'll try and find it a bit later. Now, this was a very thing, because I didn't point this out in my last stream. Now, this was during the first riot that broke out, and you see the multi-story car park next to the police station. You see all these cars that are smashed up, right? And I've used this car park before. It's
you and Owen mentioned that, because I remember watching your last stream, which was very good on this.
Yeah, it's a massive multi-story car park. It's it's like the major. It's
right.
It's what you because just for context, that people do you know Bristol quite well, Josh?
I've only visited probably once or twice. I know I know the inside of a nightclub or two. That's about it.
Yeah. Do you know Cabot Circus at all?
I do not.
Okay, so right in the city centre, you've got you got Cabot Circus, where this is where this is. So you got Bridewell Police Station, and then to the east of this location, you got Cabot Circus, and then slightly to the north, like behind the building there, you've got the Bristol Royal Infirmary. You then have the Children's Hospital next to that, and then you have the Eye Hospital. So there's quite a lot of medical infrastructure in that region, that sort of area. And a lot of the patients and patients' families and workers at those hospitals use this car park when they're at work or when they're visiting. Because I've seen them. So, and there's been talk on some of the local forums of people who were, either working there or were admitted into hospital for whatever reason, whose vehicles were smashed up by a band of violent Marxists. Yeah. I mean, Labour, if you want to support this, then fine. That's good for me to know, because I if you come canvassing around my house, you better make sure that you can run, because I'm going to set my fucking German Shepherd on you. I mean, just look at. I mean, like, what do these people do to them? Like, yeah,
They're
this is
probably
about
white.
the voices of the unheard. I tell you what. No, I'm not going to say because I don't want to be accused of incitement. But
Fair post.
you know what, Labour Party, what goes around comes around. In election, I mean, I not mean anything physical. I'm not fair post. No, because we can go to prison in this country. I'll get Cringe Walker to do it for me.
We'll rent an American to Fed Post for us.
Yeah, we're going to rent an American to Fed Post for us because I. But then again, how long would it be? Like a couple months? I can do a couple months inside. So I'll be able to do that. If any of us end up inside, we'll just do like a Bobby Sands and just go on a hunger strike.
I wonder if they have like a special wing in prisons for people who've made edgy jokes online. That just sounds like the best place to be. Can you imagine just being locked up for like 3 months with people who've said spicy shit on the internet?
I say we could all. I say all of us and like Carl, the Lotus Eaters lot. We could all meet each other up inside prison. Be great.
Yeah, I'll see you in the camps, boys.
See you in the camps. Oh, I remember that meme of. Do you remember Steve Turley?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember it was like after the election, just someone put like this like meme of like a real spicy meme of like a concentration camp, and he was like sitting in like this bed saying, "Hi guys, even though we're still in the camps, we can still win. We can still win this." And I really wish I saved that because that was such a funny meme. Because this was the point where there was a belief that Trump could still win the election by overturning it, and
yeah, the whole Caesar stuff.
Yeah, this whole season. I mean, I was sort of rooting for it because I wanted to believe it.
Yeah, he was at the point where, like, I mean, as I say, like, I was only sort of tangentially paying attention, but it was like if he had decided that he wanted to, paint the inside of the Senate chamber with the senators, then he had 100,000 people, several of which were willing to commit federal crimes for him and die for him in the case of one woman.
Yeah.
Like, what would have happened after that, who knows? But at the time,
Ooh.
if he wanted to crown himself emperor and a king of skulls, then he could have done.
Yes. This might be the Riders of Rohan charge.
No. Got the long battens, did he say?
Yeah. They had them deployed. In one of the footage that I saw on Points West, they had them deployed. But this looks like when they started moving them into St. Paul's. Right. So I think by now the mob is sort of like legged it at this point, or were making their way out. I tell you what, I couldn't be. I mean, if I was a mounted officer, I'd just have headphones in and just be listening to Riders of Rohan music.
You just got to keep your rifle by your side.
I do. There's a disclaimer because I mentioned this last night. Last time we streamed from family friend. I do know somebody who was a police officer up in Bristol for those 2 instances of rioting. And he did actually say, told me a few things about what was going on down there, which was quite interesting. Yeah, he was first time because he was sort of relatively new to the force, so this is his first public order event. So he was quite excited for it. Let's say.
I'm sure you would be. Yeah.
Yeah, he was definitely looking forward to it. Give me Riders of Rohan. Oh, this might be it.
Can we have a look at full screen? Oh, there's a horse going. Oh, was that when they checked the fireworks at the horse? I saw that. Yeah, that was pretty horrible. Poor horse.
Pause. Oh, give me Riders of Rohan.
Ride.
Oh, this is when they were beating up a journalist or something,
Oh,
or alleged journalist.
I mean, like, you know, as far as they're concerned, it's a random passerby, right?
Yeah. But let's be honest, like, I'd beat up a journalist. Oh, I'm looking forward to the day when I do go into politics properly. All these
Yeah,
clips.
yeah. I'd rather you than me.
That's going to be a long panorama episode. It'd be like 2-part panorama episode. Goodness me. Yeah. I mean, from the Bristol protest, there's been a lot of accusations of police brutality, overuse of force.
I'd like to hear them define what is a necessary use of force against them.
Well, this is the point. Now, this is the sort of stuff that this is what the Guardian and the Independent are saying is overuse of force. I see nothing wrong here. You shouldn't play in the road. Shit happens. Some
Exactly,
people.
yeah.
What was it Ilhan Omar said? Some people came and did some things, and whatever.
You know what they did?
Boom. I mean, Oh, this is the other thing. They so apparently this one they again, this was an arrest they made, but they apparently ended up battering him. But I think he's resisting arrest though, like from what I can see.
Well, they are having to drag him, and his trousers are falling down.
Yeah. Oh, and this is kneeling on the neck.
Oh dear.
I always think he was going to give him a whack on the bottom then.
cheeky spank.
Cheeky spank, yeah.
As I say, like, I'm really not a fan of police, but watching them batter rioters is quite funny.
Yeah, it's quite fun. I mean, it's a bit unexpected though, because when I heard about what was going, because I was in work at the time, and someone just said to me, "Oh yeah, have you seen what's been going on in Bristol?" And I just had the radio on, and I just went, "Oh," and I generally thought it would be like Portland, as in they would, because I knew what Antifa were like in Bristol, and the sort of like size that they could get out, and it would basically be they'd go around like this, go around. Then when it gets dark, they would burn everything, riots. Police would be nowhere to be seen. Members of the public would probably end up being attacked, and it would be a big story. And no, it turns out the police were like, "Nope, not in my city."
Yeah, so this is one thing that I was, because when I was listening to your stream with Owen and is it Harry and last week?
Yes.
One thing I would have said had I been there was the difference between the UK and America is obviously because America is so huge they can kind of get away with ignoring Portland.
Yes.
And Seattle, whereas here there's nothing really going on,
I mean, comparison wise, it would imagine if I mean, because Bristol is like Britain's second city, near enough, isn't it? Really,
I'd say Birmingham or Manchester first. I'd say probably city, Bristol.
Yeah, Birmingham
is definitely the UK's second city. Manchester probably third, then Bristol, I would say.
Or it might be, yeah. I mean, one of the biggest criticisms that I've had at even the Somerset Police was obviously one with the Colston statue.
Yeah, I mean that was just that was unforgivable. Yeah.
And especially when the local people in the area, the people who actually live there, were meant to have a referendum on it, and I think they voted to keep him up. So, democracy was not upheld.
Was it public property? Was it public property, that statue?
Yes, it was.
Did somebody own it?
Yeah. So they own it. Yeah, we're meant to live in a society, everyone.
I heard that, yeah.
I really want to. I mean, I've actually been to that place, and not at that sort of time, but I've been down there. I've worked at the Alafini, which is like a it's like an art museum. But
All right, yeah. I
yeah.
think I've walked past that, or I know that. Rings a bell anyway.
And it's around that sort of area. It's around where the old docks are, and it's where the statue was. And yeah, I actually thought of just like getting someone to recreate like the statue of Colston and just put it up, like just go down there and just put it up again.
But they put up some horrible like resin cast like monstrosity in its place, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, then you had that black woman that they like. That's
what I mean. Yeah, but it wasn't carved or anything. It was just a resin cast. Like it wasn't anything special at all.
No. And then it was removed. In the what was it? It was removed the next day.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, Riser Rohan moment.
Hey.
There we go. Got Riser Rohan. Yeah, so this was them getting chased. Now, people don't know. This was when they got chased into St. Paul. So this has been chased out of Cabot altogether.
Right.
And so basically this would be like an equivalent in Portland. So this is them being chased out of like where the federal buildings are. This is them getting chased out of the places that they want to target, because the places where they're being forced into was like residential areas, which are highly diverse areas with a lot of people that they would claim to represent, which would be interesting to see. So Newfoundland Street into St. Paul Street, yeah. And at that point, they sort of dispersed. And so far, since that, we haven't really had any problems in Bristol. There was a protest yesterday, but there wasn't any like Antifa turning up to cause any like damage or attack people. So I think they got the message.
Yeah, I mean, I guess how else are you going to do it, right?
Well, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, that's what we've had.
On how Bristol's going. Yeah, I mean, it's your rifle by your saddle. Yeah, BP's right. It is Birmingham's second city. I will represent Midland's pride.
I don't know, Bristol. No, fuck you in Mercia, all scumbags. You all surrender to the Vikings. You have to live by Southern law now.
Well, having lived in the north and in the south, I can guarantee that I am both simultaneously a Southern Ponce and a Northern Barbarian.
You're gonna have
there is an in between. It seems I'm Schrodinger's Northerner.
No, you're gonna have to chew. You must chew.
This is what I always say: is if you go on the motorway, just above Oxford, there is a sign saying "Welcome to the Midlands."
Yeah, thank you. There you go, Roy Herbert. Bristol is the second largest city in the UK by GDP. So in the equivalent,
GDP.
Sorry.
GDP. It's not a useful measurement of anything.
Well,
for a line go up.
I mean, it's quite a heavily populated area, so I mean, and also we have a lot of fucking people from London coming there, so it's like an extension. It's like another borough of London.
Well, that's not shit. Why would you want to live there?
Well, exactly. That's why you don't live there. That's why no one lives there. I don't even know what Clifton used to be like the relatively nice area of Bristol. I don't know what that's like now.
Let's see a gang rise up. Oh.
No mercy.
Although technically I'm your rightful king, so be quiet, peasant.
Imagine surrendering to the Lovebrooks. Imagine that. That's just like peak cuckery right there. Oh no, I got overrun by the heathen army. Well, have you tried defending yourself?
It may have tried that, just a little bit.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Yeah, Wessex had to save the day again.
Well, as a direct descendant of Alfred, you're very welcome.
Fair enough. And so, I mean, so moving on to the next topic, and this is actually something I haven't really discussed with you, Jos. This is a bit of a surprise one for me as well. I'm talking about dun 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 Star Wars again.
Oh God.
Well, actually, no, we're not going to talk about Star Wars itself. We're going to talk about what's been happening. Have you heard of the fandom menace?
As in, like, actors and that complaining about the, I guess, toxic fan base saying that
that's basically what it is. Yeah, so there's a subreddit forum called the fandom menace, and they're I mean, from what I can see, they are basically fans of the old Lucasfilms. They are fans of the old original comics, so like the expanded universe. They are fans of Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, and they are really, really big uber fans of the prequels and the original trilogy.
Yeah.
But they,
I like these boys already.
Yeah, and also one thing is, you won't find many fans of the new trilogy in there.
I can imagine it's pretty dire.
Yes, or the High Republic comics, which are the latest things.
I know absolutely nothing about them other than it looks kind of social justice-y.
Yeah, I mean, you got a Force-sensitive rock. I mean, like,
I saw that. Wasn't the character just like a fat Jedi or something? I thought was so funny.
No, it's just a rock. It's just a rock.
No, I swear there was another character that is like a sort of
there's like
fat teenage girl.
There is.
The demographics nowadays, or their target demographic.
The only demographics is like 15-year-old girls and Harrian. So, so
not a combination I ever want to hear about.
And I don't think he wants to hear about it either.
Better not do.
So yeah, there's been so what you had is you've got this situation going on within the, I guess you could say, culture war stuff. And the reason it's quite interesting, the reason I'm raising it tonight is because like with Gamergate, you actually had an element of the fan, like I guess you say, the gaming fan base that actually fought back. And with the Star Wars fan base, the fandom menace, they are a good portion of the Star Wars fan base. They're actually, and also it's quite centralized because they're all centralized in one subreddit, which is quite useful.
Oh, okay, that is interesting.
And they've coordinating, I guess you could say, strikes on Disney on their YouTube channel. So I just want to show you this.
Oh God, are they review bombing stuff?
They are review nuking. I've never seen anything like it.
Oh, that's amazing.
So
that's so funny.
I'm not going to show this, but look. I mean, just look at the ratio. Okay.
Have you got it? Are you showing it on screen?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm being the boomer.
Whatever you say, boomer.
Well, yeah, sure. Yes, whatever, boomer. Right. So, look at the ratio. Can you see it on screen, guys?
Holy crap!
But this is the best thing is, like, they all they also decide of what to say to social justice warriors and Disney simps. And so what you have here is like the comments are exactly. So the first comment here is, ironically, when Disney fired Gina for her opinions, it inadvertently proven her point. Jen Del Virginia Forbes,
of course, yeah.
Fire Kathleen Kennedy. And then you have the people repeating the same quote. And so it's all coordinated. And this isn't, I mean, this came out a couple of days ago, but this is like everything on Star Wars that's been, I'm just going to check the Bad Batch trailer. That hasn't been targeted, that's because it's Dave Filoni. So this is a Dave Filoni production that's coming out. And as you can see, this hasn't been bombed by the mob. I mean, yeah, you got like Dave Filoni's a kind of badass. Yeah, so it's quite clear that this is.
Yeah, it's very obvious what they're targeting.
they're targeting, and they're actually
it's interesting because it kind of makes me think of the whole GameStop stuff, right? Because it's a subreddit that's realized their power, or the power of having that many people that they can coordinate.
Yeah. I mean, everything that is High Republic is just getting demolished. And it's reached a point where some of the big Star Wars channels, are effectively having to talk about it. And these are people who aren't political, who don't discuss political points, but
they're not like the Quartering or something, they
because you got like nerd Geeks and Gamers, Nerd Theory, Quartering. They're all like, they discuss the political aspect. Then you have like, have you heard of Star Wars Theory, for example?
Yeah. So I used to, fun fact, I used to follow a lot of the channels quite closely. So yeah, people like Eckhart's Ladder as well as probably another one.
He's
my brother and I used to watch a lot.
Yeah, he's quite an interesting one because he's sort of, well, I don't want to be chucking shade around, but he's sort of fallen to the old toxic fan base narrative a bit.
It's funny watching. I think some of them they kind of have to be very upbeat about the new stuff, otherwise their whole livelihood goes, right? Because their whole thing is, look how great Star Wars is.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing is, a lot like you got Star Wars comics. I mean, there's one of them. He's like a proper SJW, absolute lunatic who just accused everyone of being a Nazi. So yeah, obviously a very sane, stable guy. And then of course you got Star Wars Theory here, who is undoubtedly, I think, like combining all the channels, he's huge channel. Huge views, huge subscribers.
Subs. Oh my god!
Yeah, he's a huge YouTuber and a big voice in the Star Wars thing. And I usually watch his live streams on Thursdays, or Wednesdays, usually Friday, because he does it at midnight our time. And one thing that has happened is that his streams over the last few months, he's obviously talked about the Gina Carano situation. And he's had a portion of the viewers basically bombard him with a lot of hate because they say, "Oh, you're mixed," because he mixes with Geeks and Gamers and such and does streams with them. It's like, "Oh, you're fraternizing with white nationalists and everything." And he's not a political guy, but he doesn't talk about politics. I don't know. I don't even know what his like political opinions are, because he already talks about Star Wars. That's all he wants to talk about, which is fair enough because that's his channel. That's what
he's got 3 million subs out of it, so we must do something right.
Well, yeah, and also, I mean, like, it's basically sticking to what you know, isn't it? I mean, there's plenty of other political channels, like our stuff. You want to know about politics, you come to our channel, I guess. But what you have is he's been at the target for them for the last several months, and they first they started to sort of like guilt trip him, like the sort of tactic of the social justice, like they guilt you into agreeing with them, and that didn't work because he's like, nah, the new sequels are shit.
Well, that's good for him then, I guess, because as I say, you could very easily sell out, and I'm sure Disney would push you if you
no. And he's got a strong opinion about Kathleen Kennedy and is it Ryan Johnson, the director of like
The Last Jedi? Yes,
The Last Jedi, because Ryan Johnson has said some things about like the sequels and how it wasn't planned out and that he didn't really care. And for someone like this who's a massive Star Wars fan, he's like, well, fuck you.
Because he's trying to care, please.
Yeah. And also like someone at Lucasfilms, like Pablo something or other, like was involved with it. He was like involved with a Twitter spat with him, and it was over like his reaction, and he saw like Luke Skywalker and the Mandalorian. Spoilers, everyone. And his reaction was he got like teary-eyed and everything, and it was like Pablo just said, what don't what was it? It was something along the lines of you shouldn't be crying, or there's like saying that it was all about unnecessary or something like that.
There were people like taking the piss out of that guy ages ago for crying at a trailer.
Well, yeah,
and this time it was actually a Lucasfilm employee. Then.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, the guy last time it was like it was the fandom. I guess you could. I don't think it was a fandom menace, but I think it was elements who were skeptical of the sequels originally, who had taken the piss out of him, and then it was like all the SGWs and Lucasfilms and Disney sort of people came out behind and support him. But this person, they were like, even like the person you spoke about, is it Urquhart? Was like totally unnecessary and like divisive or some bullshit like that. I mean, it was complete bullshit that's been going on with this. And recently, what's happened is he was in a stream, this theory, and he was talking about what he wanted to see in the new Kenobi show, which is being produced by Kathleen Kennedy. So I'm not holding up much hopes for this. I think it's going to be crap, personally.
I hope not.
I hope not, but if Filoni, I mean, they're saying, but Filoni's got is having been an advisory role on this. And I was like, I don't care. If Filoni was directing and producing it, then I would be okay. Let's go. I wouldn't mind. But no, I don't hold much hope. But he said, what he was talking about, just what he wanted to see, and he said that he just wanted to see a flashback of Vader during 66 in the Jedi Temple, going after the Jedi, like the hallway scene, just seeing him in his full power rage, and maybe even taking out Jedi masters, Jedi apprentices, and younglings. And these people who've been attacking him immediately went, "Oh, Theory wants to see children being slaughtered." And there has been, let's just see, so many videos. Let's just see. I'm just trying to find. There's one guy who did. Basically, what's been happening is that there's been a lot of pushback from the anti-fandom menace crowd, who have basically said that he wants to. This was like a really bizarre tweet that he wants to sort of advocate for children being killed, and that it's somehow wouldn't fit within Star Wars.
The dark side, it's meant to be horrible.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know what, because I mean I don't know what their point is. I remember which channel it was, actually. Star Wars only. So Star Wars fans turn on Star Wars theory. Star Wars Twitter is at it again. The fandom is broken. So what you have is, as he points out in the video, that a portion who've basically been accusing him of being a white supremacist and a Nazi, which I assume are idiotic 15-year-old Americans who don't even know what fascism or Nazism is at this point. Anybody who doesn't like new trilogy is a Nazi. So
that's what I heard.
Yeah. And so this is where we are. I mean, it's interesting cultural, because you've got Kathleen Kennedy and the High Republic crowd and the new trilogy lot on one side, and then you have the fandom menace, the Filoni-verse people, the original, the prequels, trilogy. I mean, I would say the majority of the fan base on the other side, and it's been represented effectively along the lines of the radical left, feminists, the woke brigade, I guess one would say, as the term's being used, against the traditionalists, Star Wars traditionalists who want to keep politics out.
God, why can't they just leave it? Well, I mean, Star Wars is something that I've kind of like tuned out of because you could literally talk for days about it. You know,
Yeah,
it's such a huge kind of cultural thing that people always want to talk about, and I can see why they I guess trying to take it over, but I don't even know where I'll go with that. To be honest, it's such a mad they just have to insert themselves into everything. It does my head in. It's the fact that they just always take the same side as the new stuff that's shit, you know.
yeah. And
like the old stuff can't be allowed to stay alive.
yeah, sorry, I just found the tweet. I'll just bring up this tweet, which is the tweet that he sent out because he said it on the stream and then he said it in a tweet, and he hasn't deleted it. He hasn't really, from what I can see, he has this approach of, well, he doesn't really care what people like. If people come after him and say, call him like a white nationalist, like even on stream, he just goes, yeah, whatever, I think you're wrong. He doesn't really engage with them, which I think is pretty cool, to be honest, because I know like a lot of people they take it too close to heart, but
you'll get rattled. You know, that's a fucking terrible thing to be called, right?
Well, especially if you're if you're operating a non-political YouTube, then yeah, that's pretty like devastating. I mean, if we're called like white nationalists or Nazis, it's like, yeah, whatever, commie.
It's like by the standards of critical race theory, which labels fucking everything racist, then sure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, by their standards, we're probably like.
I am white, so like I can't really escape that, can I?
Well, but by their standards, Boris Johnson is like literally Idi Amin, Hitler, all the authoritarian dictators around the world into one. So what does that make us? Like uber like Palpatine levels of evil.
Well, they probably argue Palpatine did nothing wrong.
Yeah, probably.
Imagine doing that.
Yeah, they probably would. Yeah. But this is the tweet. So one of the only things I want from Obi-Wan's show is Anakin Order 66 Temple flashback, Skywalker just destroying Jedi Padawans, Knights Masters with ease. That's my only gripe with Return. No, Revenge of the Sith.
Oh no, sorry, I read that wrong.
Because I mean, one of the things I had a problem with Revenge of the Sith was if you actually think about the scene, I think there should have been, because there was meant to be more of the film set in the Jedi Temple where you see Vader / Anakin walking in there with the clone troopers and just like literally massacring, like Game of Thrones style, everybody and anybody that gets in his way.
Yeah.
And there was actually like there's like you can find deleted scenes like of him taking out that like one of the Jedi Masters while she's meditating, and then walking out into the temple, and you see clone troopers just like putting like Jedi against the wall and tearing down pillars and just wiping them all out. And so yeah.
Brutal stuff. Yeah. I mean, oh God, I remember getting that on DVD and watching all the all the special features and all the deleted scenes and that. Good shit.
I mean, I remember seeing it at cinema. I mean, I remember at cinema, like, I was 10, and I remember thinking to myself, like, I mean, I remember I had I think I had like a stress headache. It's really funny. I remember thinking I had a stress headache because it was just so intense, especially first time watching, because you knew what was about to happen. That there was a point that he was going to become Vader in this film, but you just didn't know how it was going to happen, how it was going to go down.
But yeah, I must have been about 6, I want to say. So I hadn't really heard of Star Wars. I remember it going on and like seeing. God, I had I think at the time I had some magazine which had like a picture of Yoda. I think it was advertising some like Lego Star Wars stuff on the magazine.
Yeah.
And there was a picture of Yoda saying like, "Oh, buy this, you should," or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out, like, why is this little green creature just just talking in such a weird voice?
Yeah. And so basically, from this tweet, it was politicized by the radical left, who have a gripe with this person because he won't. I mean, the gripe with him is not because he's right wing; it's because he just won't sign up to. He won't bend the knee. He won't sign up to the cause. He
Good, what a
won't.
lad. Good lad. I might go and sub to his channel then.
Yeah, I mean, go sub to him because he is really, he's saying, no, I'm not getting political, and I don't want Star Wars to be political. I mean, you had like, there was one guy who super chatting like in his last stream. Oh, but Star Wars has always been political. It's the rebels have always like the rebels have been, the representation of the socialist revolutionaries that have existed throughout. And I was like, oh, fuck off! No, they haven't. The rebels are effectively constitutionalists. They're not collectivists. They have never advocated for collectivism. And in the separatists, like he even went as far like saying the separatists were like somehow the this authoritarian sort of collective, like white nationalist state or some bullshit they came up with.
Dude, the separatists are fucking based as hell. I was always team separatist.
Well, they're libertarian, but also they're right. I mean, that was the thing that people.
They're entirely correct.
But
they literally have missile of droids with fucking rocket launchers on the top to enforce their deaths.
But the thing though is, like, if you think about it, I mean, I think George Lucas even like referenced it. He said, but the problem is like the argument from the separatist perspective is that the Republic is run by authoritarian enemies, which was true because Palpatine was, he was Sith. He was running the Republic. He was effectively a dangerous figure. Now you could say
he's a one-man deep state.
Yeah, and he was sort of running the separatists as well with like Dooku. Yeah. But the point was the separatist cause was right because the Republic was this. Well, it's corrupt as hell, but it was like weak. I mean, I remember back to Knights of the Old Republic, like the KOTOR games. There was like one really good scene, like in KOTOR 2, when you have Kira, who basically says that the Republic is like this lumbering old beast, which is always catching for breath, and is always like a crisis away from collapse. And it's like
the NHS.
Well, base KOTOR programmers, yeah. It pretty much is. I mean, and that's the thing. That's why. Because if you think about the Revenge of the Sith, it highlights it is not so much the Sith and their amazing return, is the fact that they use the force of the Republic against itself, use democracy against itself, and just brought it down.
This is how liberty dies with thunderous applause is just such a fucking good line.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's an element of truth to that. Also, I mean, I think that, I mean, there's been streams on this before, like in our circles, talking about the sort of Coruscant and everything, but immediately after, like, again, a lot of what these radical lefts forget is like in the expanded universe in the Vader comics, like the moment the days after Order 66 and when Vader is in his suit and everything, him and Vader and Emperor go to the temple, the Jedi temple, where a crowd of Coruscant, like hundreds of like millions, I think it was like hundreds of thousands or millions, had gathered outside the temple and the surrounding streets and were celebrating the death of the Jedi, and they were like chucking the lightsabers of the dead Jedi Knights and masters, and even Yoda's lightsaber, which they got after the battle, into this fire, and people said, and all the lightsabers were being destroyed in front of this mob who were cheering for the new Empire because it was the reign of the evil Jedi. Because again, as the Jedi were considered to be, they were really disliked in the Star Wars universe that Filoni George Lucas and Filoni created.
Yeah, they're basically like, they're not really like FBI. They're kind of like, I mean, they're supposed to be independent from the state, but in practice, not really.
No, and also like again, like I mean, because this is the thing. This is about like the left's chance to retake. This is their chance of infiltrating Star Wars using the sort of left-wing dynamics. Like the problem with the High Republic is that they make the Jedi Order out to be like this. You have this one-dimensional good guys and then one-dimensional bad guys, and there's nothing. There's no like nuance in between. And it's like, you know, the thing is, when in what made Revenge of the Sith so great is there was Anakin was sort of in the right throughout most of the film.
But yeah, like they did betray him, really.
But because the Jedi Order asked him to spy on the Chancellor, and then the Chancellor said, "Oh, I don't trust them. I think they're going to take over." And then you have Mace Windu who says, "I sense a plot to destroy the Jedi. If the Chancellor doesn't hand back emergency powers, we'll have to remove him, and then the Jedi Council will have to take over control of the Republic." And it's like, so I mean, fuck, I would turn on the Jedi Order.
I mean, the issue is that the Sith are legitimately evil.
Evil's a point of view,
like philosophically.
Yeah, I mean, one of the problems with the Sith, and this is where it goes to what is it? Where it goes to the core of Star Wars. Why the Sith? I mean, again, because they don't explain this in the High Republic. Why the Sith wiped out? The Jedi never destroyed the Sith. The Sith wiped out the Sith.
Yeah, like the whole thing. What was it? Something like through. Well, because they had for a while they had like a load of them under a Dark Lord, but they kept killing each other off to try and get there.
Yeah, because there were several great wars. Because it's like in obviously KOTOR, and then Knights of the Old Star Wars: The Old Republic, which is like the MMO, and then there's like a 1,000 years before Phantom Menace. There was like the last great war, and basically what happened was it's not canon yet, but we'll see what happens with it. But basically, what happened was the Sith were wiped out. I think largely down to Darth Bane, who
so Darth Bane put in that rule, didn't he, where you have to only two of them at the same time.
Yeah, and he got that inspiration because all the Sith got their inspiration from Revan, Darth Revan, who was basically like the he wasn't the first Sith, but he was the first of
No, he was not by any means the first Sith, like not by a long way.
And this is
yeah.
And the crazy thing about it is, like, if you go back to like the ancient times in Star Wars, when you have the ancient Sith and the ancient Jedi, apparently they're meant to be like extremely powerful compared to like the Jedi of the current universe. Like, if you see Sith and Jedi back then, they were meant to be like near gods in their power of the Force.
There's a sort of I think a lot of these kind of modern stories, there's a sort of under sort of feeling underneath everything of decline.
Yeah,
but you know that they're always, and I see this a lot in modern storytelling, that there's always some greater age beforehand.
Yes, and
I guess it's true of our storytelling. You know, of even ancient stories. Like you go back to Arthurian legend or to Greek myths or whatever, they're always super powerful people that we talk about. I guess over time, people become more powerful, or their stories become more overpowered.
And that's and also, I mean, it's like characters as well. I mean, one of the things that I have an issue with the new sequels is the Mary Sue character of Rey, because she is effectively perfect in every single way throughout at least the first two films. She's able to pick up a lightsaber, and
Well, even in the third one, she has some feeling that she's going to turn to the dark side, and there's literally no reason why she ever would.
Well, yeah, because there's like no temptation put in her way.
There's the one thing in the cave with her parents, and that's it.
Well, yeah. I mean, she shows no sign of wanting to be power hungry. I mean, at least you can say in the shitty George Lucas writings of like the clone Attack of the Clones and everything, you can sort of see the path that Anakin goes on. Like, you know, he wants to stop anything bad from happening. He wants more power because the Jedi a lot are, and Obi-Wan's holding him back. So you can sort of see how it's building up for something. But you know, there was no character development. She was just pure perfect. And these same people that we got in the comments here, their response is, "Oh, but Anakin Skywalker is a Mary Sue as well." And
I don't even know why they even like.
And it's
I don't know how to deal with these people.
Well, I can't even really talk with these people because it's like, obviously you guys have never seen Star Wars. Then, if you think that he is a perfect character who has no character development, no character arc, you have not seen Star Wars, and you're bullshitting everybody.
Like a child to massacring children.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, like in the comments here, it's basically, you know, him saying about, you know, going ballistic and everything. Do not hesitate, show no mercy. You're not supposed to think that Anakin killing the kids is cool. And he says, "Did I say younglings? Did I say I want to see that? No, I didn't." And that's a very important point because Rob Davis here, obviously being a special kind of contrarian, I guess you could say, is forgetting that. I mean, I raised this point with a lot of them on stream. I was like, "Well, have you guys seen? Have you seen the Hunger Games?"
I've read the books. I've seen like the first 2 movies.
Oh yeah. So I mean, the premise of the Hunger Games is it's kids killing kids.
We were talking about this the other day, actually. I think I can't remember who I was chatting to about this, but we actually concluded that Hunger Games really isn't that bad as a sort of like tale for modern times, I guess.
No, it isn't, because there's I mean, you go into like powers of the state. Where should authority lie?
And the whole like mutant purple haired people ruling everything.
Yeah, the sort of technocrats in the capital.
I mean, like the modern like celebrities are getting more and more like that every day.
Oh, I mean, like Lady Gaga's performance at Joe Biden's stuff, surrounded by like military fences and military. I mean, that can't be real.
Did she have like a massive like pin on it, like jewelry pin or something?
Yeah, she had like a massive jewelry pin, and she dressed up like that. What's her name? The announcer or something, like in the Hunger Games films. That's
yeah, I can't remember her name, but the woman. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they sort of all embracing like enemies.
Like, yeah, I mean, her Katniss in Hunger Games is like, she's obviously a sort of like teen romance kind of character, but she still ends up absolutely fucked by the events of the story. Like, she goes from a sort of kind of idealistic girl to just like broken by the end of it. So there's definitely character development there.
Yeah. Oh, look at this pathetic little specimen. Yeah, the one thing missing from Avengers was more gracious murder. Also, they should play Linkin Park over Anakin slaughtering Jedi. You see,
are they turning Anakin Skywalker into a bloody school shooter in their minds?
What's that? Who came up with the theory that if a space isn't inherently right wing, it'll be taken over by leftists?
Oh, there's like three rules or whatever.
Yeah, there's like 3 rules. I mean, that's
it's the whole Cthulhu always swims left idea, right?
Yeah. And it's like, actually,
Oh god. It's spelled with an X. Come on. Don't be a bigot.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm kind of agreeing with Powell here that I am very not just here, but Star Wars talk can get very
But anyway, I just thought because I know that people don't like it and fuck you shouldn't be tuning in.
We're
but
talking about your boy Floyd.
Yeah, about the boy. We'll move on from that. So, but basically, that's what I just wanted to raise because I thought it was important that there was a raise to that because the fandom menace. There's a lot of hit piece articles at the moment.
I find it very interesting that we seem to be that certain subreddits seem to be kind of realizing their power now. I mean, obviously Reddit is unbelievably cringe for most of it.
Yeah,
but some because it's quite decentralized. Sometimes they can kind of pull a 4chan, but on a larger scale. But each individual is less able, I guess.
But what's amazing as well is that when they do achieve that power, so like the fandom menace has like coordinated enough to a point where the narrative coming out of like the Disney establishment and the sort of Kathleen Kennedy simps is, this is now a right-wing echo chamber, and it's like, well, okay, well, what's Tumblr? Tumblr is the left-wing echo chamber. What's Twitter?
Tumblr's dead because they got rid of the porn.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, all of this. I mean, left-wing echo chambers are fine. No one cares about them.
You might get radicalized though.
Might get radicalized. Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because like it seems like if this continues, we've had GameStop, we've had this
GameStop,
Wall Street bets and that. Like if they continue to, if the internet collectively continues to realize its power, I mean, it's kind of like it's been an interesting thought, isn't it? Because it's kind of like wiring together a couple of million brains.
Yeah. I mean, I think when it comes to the GameStop stuff, that was more effective because it was direct. Because let's be honest, Wall Street is the financing. It finances political parties. It finances
Joe Biden directly.
It financed Joe Biden directly, and a group of Redditors on there were able for some time to, use the stock market. That the rules
it's still going,
and it's still going. Yeah, it's still going.
It's hyped out of the media. It's hyped out of the media, but if I check the price now, it's currently at $190 a share.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when it got up to about like 500, or it was like peaking at 500.
So it went down to like 40 for a few weeks, and then in the last month, it has just exploded, not to the same speed, not at the same speed, but it seems to be steadily rising. Like a week ago, it was 150, now it's 190. Like it has spiked over 200 and gone back down again. But it's just interesting to see how far it'll go, I guess.
It will be interesting.
It is. For anyone watching this, story is not over yet. You will see more of this.
Yeah, and I mean, but the thing though is that's the sort of. I think what made Wall Street Bets so interesting was that it's about targeting something. Because I mean, like the whole Star Wars thing, it's okay, but I would say if you wanted to make an impact with Star Wars, you have to go after the sort of money aspect of it. So whether it's like boycotting, then you'd have to tell fans, boycott this. But then the problem is, well, if they like the fact that they like the Filoni stuff, that means they would have to boycott. They have to boycott that as well. So that's quite difficult. I mean, you can boycott the films, but if you're still paying for Disney Plus and you're still watching you're paying for the Filoni stuff, then you're still paying Kathleen Kennedy. So yeah, I mean, they would have to do something. I mean, unless like you collectively, I'm just trying to think. unless you can like collectively go after like Disney on the stock market, I don't know what else you could do. Get Elon Musk to buy Disney. And that's the only other option I can think of. If you wanted to win, you'll win that culture war, and then like the fandom menace becomes like the fandom menace subreddit becomes the new like directors of Disney. So that's the only way you can do
I don't know how you do it. I mean,
very cool. Yeah, ditto. They've had enough now. So moving on from Star Wars, I might just talk about the Commission of Race and before we go, because that's getting a bit late now. Commission of Race and Ethnicity disparities. So very quickly, you got basically. I mean, I'm not going to go through the whole report because I'm tired. I've had enough. But when it comes to health, it's basically you're overweight, and the stuff that you eat is not good for you. So hence why you're dying of COVID. Improve yourself.
It's driving me crazy. Like everywhere I look where there's high COVID deaths, it's always just there's a high obesity stat. Like tell me I'm wrong, but the places with low COVID mortality are like Africa and India, and the places with high COVID mortality are like the US.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I feel like there might be a contributing factor there. I don't want to say that I had to give up a year of my life because fat people exist.
Well, yeah, basically.
And all the gyms were closed.
Yeah. And when it comes to crime and policing, it basically comes down to family. Breakdown of the family amongst certain communities in the UK.
I mean, like, duh.
I mean, effectively, that's what it comes down to. And it's like, and then it's basically understanding that broken families for policing. It's like, well,
stop breaking families then.
Well, stop breaking families. Yeah, abolish benefits. It's quite what it comes down to, doesn't it? Quite interesting because they sort of, I can't tell really because there's this sort of, you hear like employment fairness at work and enterprise, and basically disadvantaged people from backgrounds going into civil service law and medicine. But from the report, it actually says that white working class kids are classed as disadvantaged.
Yes. It was advertised as like a plus that white working class kids weren't doing as well, or like it was a positive for the rest of society.
So
it was some like great leap that white kids were doing badly. It's like brilliant.
So what I can see is that from the terminology used by the government's report, or report given to the government, and from the government response to this, is that they will set up. I have a feeling there's going to be a plan to set up diversity schemes for white working class.
Oh God, just we need more diversity schemes.
Yeah, but exclusively for white people.
It's like, that's their only fucking solution. It's another bloody committee or scheme or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, as funny as it would be to see like Ash Sarkar break down over this, I don't believe with any all diversity schemes are just inherently divisive and immoral, in my opinion. So I just don't. I mean, as long as there is dear government, right? As long as there is no laws, segregation laws, where you say, black people can't have this or can't have the same rights as everyone else to this. If that doesn't exist, then there's nothing wrong. The BBC may be racist. Digital marketing firms in uber metropolitan areas may have race problems. That's fine. You investigate them. The BBC says, "Oh yeah, we're institutionally racist." Okay, investigate them. Universities say we're like Oxford and like the left-wing universities say we're institutionally racist. Okay, you shut them down. Do what Trump did. Like that you had that was funny.
Over some university, yeah.
Yeah, he basically said like there was like one university that said, yeah, we're institutionally racist, and then Trump said, okay, I'll just send in the feds to investigate, and they're like, oh no, hang on a sec.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Yeah, but it was in his purview to do that, so I don't blame him. But yeah, so go back to the commission. We then have I guess the more interesting bit. So it's like what lies behind the disparity, and this is what's got like the Ash Sarkars and that Gupta woman that's like anti hates white people. That's a university professor at Cambridge. Has got them all worked up over. So I'll go to page. Can I click on it? Does that go? Does that take me to? Okay, so here we go. We've got what lies behind disparity. So the idea that all ethnic minority people suffer a common fate and shared disadvantage is an anachronism. So basically, it's bullshit. The first sentence is that race realism is bullshit. In other words.
Yeah. Well, it's an equality of. Well, they're saying that there is no outcome, right? It's different.
Well, they're saying that the sort of Black Lives Matter race realist belief that all black people are oppressed because of X and X reasons, they've just shattered that. Which I mean, they basically they haven't really they shattered it, and they've just said no, this is reality. This whole page is basically this is reality. I do think I think it's quite fair. So we'll go into the next bit. Yeah, both the reality. So they do actually say this is reality, and the perception of unfairness matters. So they do distinguish between the reality and the perception. And so the perception is like the Black Lives Matter radical left in this country who have imported a lot of Americanisms over racial inequality. So I'm glad they do distinguish between perception and reality.
I mean, I'd do that and then just throw out the perception. It's like, you may think that you're oppressed, but you're not, so tough shit.
Well, remember, the purpose of the report is to find out why they think they're oppressed as well. Right, okay. So they have to, because the trouble is to deal with the problem. I mean, in many ways, I actually see this as how they can de-radicalize these people is effectively their point of view.
So wait, sorry, can we take a step back? Like, when was this commissioned and by who?
This was commissioned last year after the Black Lives Matter sort of that one riot that happened in London.
Oh, right, okay.
And it was commissioned by the UK government by an independent body. It's taken I think nearly a year now to come out. I mean, at the time there was a lot of criticism from our side because it was like, I mean, I do think there is an element of criticism because it is public money at the end of the day, all of this. So all you could have done, government, Boris, whoever, or Kemi, because this is from Kemi Badenhock, who's been on point with critical race theory throughout. So this is like her department that she's been dealing with. So I mean, in theory, she could have just come out and said, no, it's bullshit from the start, and we're not even engaging in your conspiracy theories. But at the same time, I think the approach is, well, we want to debunk this in the public forum, which I can understand. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with their methods here, but I just think, does it warrant the cost from the public purse? I don't think so.
It's something to point at,
I mean, it's like, it's something you can reference.
This is what they do all the time. Is they'll just like, I can't remember who coined the term, but it's idea laundering, right?
Yeah, I mean, like Kemi, she even said like tonight in her tweets, this is all written together by experts. So, sort of like in the way to say that this is somehow wrong, misleading, or just untrue, it means you go against the experts. And if you disagree with experts in anything nowadays, obviously you're a conspiracy theorist and a nut job. So by that logic, people like Lammy and everyone else is a conspiracy theorist nut job by their own standards.
Yeah. Lammy's been doing that absolutely nothing this week.
Yeah. So it goes on to talk about Black Lives Matter marches, catalyst, shocking case of police brutality in the US that resulted in the death of George Floyd. Many British citizens, particularly young adults, felt compelled to protest and call for change here too. Countries are different. Okay, so this is quite interesting. So they sort of...
You're not bloody American.
Yeah, the countries is different and face different race-related challenges. Yeah. I mean, I would say the big race problems in this country, if there is going to be race problems, I would say like Black and Asians.
Or just the Irish.
Or Irish and the English.
Oh, the English aren't a race, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's ethnicity, but I can't really think of anything that's significant. But in some places in the UK, especially in the Black inner city communities, historical wrongs by the state and the police have left a deep legacy of mistrust too. I mean, that is true. There's a lot of places in London which don't who don't trust the police. So that's not incorrect. We understand the idealism of those well-intended young people who have held on to and amplified this intergenerational mistrust. However, we also have to ask whether a narrative that claims nothing has changed for the better and that the dominant feature of our society is institutional racism and white privilege will achieve anything beyond alienating the decent center ground, center ground which is occupied by people of all races and ethnicities. It's very 2015.
Yes. At least it's not 1993.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's not like peak progressive era stuff. So, and so it goes like, what lies behind the disparities is a key question to answer. We recognize the lived realities and sometimes trauma of racial disadvantage. Our thinking also looks hard at the evidence and the multiple causes in play and seeks to come up with relevant measures, for example, to deal with the disproportionate effect of our Class B drug laws on young Black people, or problems in mental health provisions for those ethnic minority groups that struggle to access services when they need them. And it goes on to the commission about struggles of mental health and Grenfell and Windrush and COVID. And I mean, this is quite interesting because it actually, Open Britain, it sort of comes to the conclusion that, in fact, outside the Twitter sphere, Britain isn't that divided. I mean, like Black and white people, British people get along. They talk to each other. They don't see each other as, melanin,
Yeah, it's like, you're not bloody American.
Yeah, you're not bloody American. To forget all the pages, you can just sum it up with "We're not bloody American."
I think this needs so many, I'm a few years younger than you, but so many people my age need to just have that battered into their skulls that they're not American.
Yeah. Oh, they really desperately need to. And this is the one that's really angered the left at the moment. It's about perception and realities. And
that's so funny. I think, it's kind of saying that it's basically just saying you're deluded in a scientific way.
Well, yeah, it is saying that they're deluded. And I think this is, I'd like to know who actually put this particular section together. So, overt and outright racism persists in the UK. Examples of it loom larger in our minds because we witness it not just as graffiti on our walls or abuse hurled across the street, but also in more private settings of our phones and our tablets. Well, there are a lot of people who degrade white people in this country. So, yes, there is racism, especially on Twitter. If you're white, you are degraded as, but you're a white man. You can't talk about this subject. Blah. Was often too divisive. Trolling means many prominent ethnic minority people routinely receive racist abuse from people who cannot be traced and held to account, making anonymous abuse hard.
I don't want the government holding people account for abuse.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess they're referring to us in that regard.
Well, it's like, what? No, you shouldn't be trying to hold people to account for fucking Twitter posts.
The trouble is, like,
shouldn't even want that, you know.
I mean,
they're complaining that they can't do it.
I've never seen Lammy or anybody who always say that they've received racist abuse actually ever receive racist abuse. I see people calling him a moron, and that's about it. I never see racist abuse on Twitter.
I mean, the worst you'll get is you're not English, mate.
Yeah, that's factual though. I mean, that's not racism. I mean, you could argue he's British because British isn't exactly.
Can we just go back to the subject of the crown, and then everything else is ethnicity?
Sorry. Can
we go back to the subject of the crown, and everything else is ethnicity?
Yeah, sure.
Because I know it annoyed me especially because an example that comes to mind is that I have my granddad's family were a lot of them were born and raised in India.
Yeah,
as like part of the empire, So it's like that doesn't make them Indian, even though they spoke Hindi and worked there for many years alongside a lot of Indian people.
Well, no,
it's just so strange.
I mean, the thing is, when it comes to the concept of British and Britain is a political.
British is imperial. Explicitly.
It's imperial. So you could argue. I mean, I would say David Lammy is British because that's factual, like passport. The fact that he has legacy to the Caribbean, the British colonies in the Caribbean.
His Guyanan passport is a spare one, right? It's not his real one.
It could be, yeah. Same with the Indians, though. I mean, you could argue that Hindus in this country and I guess Pakistanis and such have that tie with Britain because of the empire, especially the older ones who were born during the time of the British Empire. So you could argue that they are British because unless you disregard.
Well, I mean, if you go back all the way, Britain is a union of England, Scotland, and Wales.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing because I mean
that's why I say it's imperial in nature because it's looking outside of England's borders.
Yeah, I mean but that's the problem that we have. I mean that's why I did a stream about ethnicity and then the political union in itself and how we navigate it because obviously English is. I mean I think the Oxford definition is English people are northwestern Germanic speaking peoples who originate from Saxon lands who migrated in the 6th century, who then mixed with the Angles who originate from Denmark, and then you had the Norman conquest, and you had sort of the mix of the three groups of northern
Sub-Saharan African,
yeah.
You could be forgiven for getting it mixed up with a Polish guy, say, but it's different. It's just obvious,
Well, yes, it is. It is obvious, but there's a deliberate political narrative around to redefine the terms. I mean, it's like the redefined terms of gender. The fact that man and woman no longer means just that. I mean, who came up with this idea? It is not organic. Nobody in public life talks about it or even cared about it. It's come out of nowhere. It's like Extinction Rebellion and the green paranoia, I call it. No one talked about it. It's all astroturfed movements. I hope people wake up from it. I say we'll probably finish up now then, I guess.
Yeah.
But thanks for coming on.
No worries. Yeah, it's good fun.
And thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you all later.